then developments elsewhere could in fact reduce some of the effects, and we call that so-called carbon leakage. So there are connections between actions of different countries. Next. Another part of the report is devoted to the long term. This is a problem that will not be playing out only over the next 25 years. It's a long-term problem, and controlling this will take 50 to 100 years. But that means that since gases that go up in the atmosphere will not, will stay there, that we have to make sure that emissions are going down. It's like your bathtub. If you have the faucet open, then the bath will overflow at some point. So in order to prevent that, you have to close the tap. That is the idea of stabilization. It means that, and the analysis in this report says that the lower you want to keep the level of gases in the atmosphere, the earlier you have to reduce emissions. And we go one step further to say that in the next 2 or 3 decades, the reductions through mitigation action will have a large impact on what we in the longer term can achieve. So there is a clear connection to what we can achieve in the long term and what we do in the next 25 years. Next. There's a lot of analysis of what that means in terms of when these emissions have to go down. I won't go into too much detail for you, but if you look at the so-called A1 category, that is the category that is the most stringent action that keeps the level of gases in the atmosphere at the lowest of all of the studies analyzed. And that means that for that scenario to be realized, global emissions need to peak not later than 2015. And by 2050, they need to be somewhere between 50 to 80% below current levels. So that means that an enormous effort would be required to achieve that. Of course, if the levels you allow in the atmosphere are getting higher and you go down in the table, the time you have to turn around the growing emissions into a decline will be longer, and the reduction required by 2050 will be less. Next. What we also did in the report is connect those levels of gases in the atmosphere, the so-called concentration levels, into what it means for the global mean temperature in the very long term, when the atmosphere and the Earth system are stabilized. And we show, and that's based to a large extent on the Working Group 1 report that was already approved and released in January, that the higher the concentrations become, the higher the global mean average temperature will be. So we present a clear relationship for people to understand what these levels of greenhouse gases could mean for temperatures, and connect that also